Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Come on in here and sit down with me. Today we're looking at verses 5 and 6. These come after the Selah, so I hope yesterday that after we finished, you meditated on verses 3 and 4. So we have David's statement there in 4 of his, basically it's his confession. I will abide, I will trust. Of course, the strong tower and the shelter, we understand where those come from. And is Saul the enemy? That's another question we're going to have going forward. And then today we have, after the Selah, 5 and 6. For thou, O God, hast heard my vows. Thou hast given me the heritage of those that fear thy name. Thou wilt prolong the king's life and his years as many generations. Thou, O Lord, hast heard my vows. And so God is invoked here again. He was invoked in verse 1. Hear my cry, O God. That's a request. But here it's not a request. You have heard my vows. O God, you have heard my vows. So what are the vows that he's made? Well, let's look at verse 4. I will abide in thy tabernacle forever. I will trust in the covert of thy wings. It sounds like a vow to me. It's a promise that he's making to the Lord. So the vows come right before this statement. You have heard my vows. You have given me the heritage of those that fear thy name. So we have something. We're in possession now of something, or the psalmist is. And that something is all the rights and responsibilities of sonship. So the Lord has provided an heritage, and we're responsible for that heritage. And that heritage, as Adam Clark says, comes with the privilege of enjoying the Lord in the ordinances. So not only in baptism, but also in the Lord's Supper, we enjoy him, and also in the other ordinances, the preaching of the word, we enjoy him. And then in our private devotional life, we enjoy him. So that is what we are given. And David says it comes right after those vows. I will abide in the tabernacle forever. I will trust in the covert of thy wings. Have you said those words to the Lord yet? Have you said, Father, your will be done, not mine? Well, then look at verse 6. Thou wilt prolong the king's life and his years as many generations. Now, up there in verse 3, we said that maybe Saul is the enemy. And so David mentions him. You've been a shelter for me and a strong tower from the enemy. And of course, the Lord had been a strong tower from Saul's attacks for David. Now we come down here to verse 6. Thou wilt prolong the king's life. Could he still be speaking of Saul here? Well, I think he probably could be. And I just want to suggest something to you, that perhaps what we have here in Psalm 61 is a reflection of what we find in 1 Timothy chapter 2. In 1 Timothy chapter 2, Paul writes, I exhort therefore that first of all supplications, prayers, intercessions, giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings, and for all that are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. Did he qualify that by saying only the ones that you like, or only the ones that do good, or only the ones that are part of your political party, or have your political leanings? No, he says for all men, for kings, and all that are in authority. So when David writes here, prolong the king's life, I think that he's thinking of Saul, and he wants Saul to live a good long time. He doesn't want things to come to an end, but he wants this man to get a blessing from the Lord. He wants things to be restored. David has no interest in the throne if it comes by way of that kind of larceny, in a sense. And so I think this instructs us. We too need to be in prayer for those who are over us, kings, governors, mayors, whoever it might be, presidents, premiers, prime ministers. Pray for them. Just pray for them. Don't worry about whether or not they agree with you, and don't worry about whether or not they've treated you well. So you just have to do as the Bible says and pray for all men, for kings, and all who are in authority. And I think that's what David teaches us right here. Is this not Saul, the king's life? Prolong it. Bless him. Give him a blessing, and his years as many generations. May he live a long time. That's David's prayer for Saul, even though Saul had persecuted him and hunted him, as the Bible says, like a partridge in the wilderness. All right, well, join me again tomorrow, and we'll look at verses 7 and 8 here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.